Hey everyone, and welcome. So there's this idea making the rounds in digital marketing called the funnel flip. And the big question is it a real game changer? Something that could actually, double your results, or is it just the latest piece of clickbait? Another buzzword we're all going to forget in a few months. Well, we're going to get to the bottom of it right now. Let's dive in.
Yeah, this is the exact question we're here to answer. We're going to look at the problem it's supposed to fix, how the whole thing actually works, and this is the most important part. We're going to look at the hard data. By the time we're done here, you'll know for sure what's what.
Okay, so first things first. Before we can even talk about the solution, you really have to understand just how big the problem is. We're going to walk through what a typical digital event funnel looks like, and you'll see why calling it staggering waste, well, it's not an exaggeration. Not even close.
All right, let's set the scene with something we've all seen, right? A company decides to run a webinar. They blast out 10,000 emails to get people to come. And that's a huge number. It feels like it's full of potential, but let's watch what actually happens.
And boom, right away we hit the first massive roadblock. A pretty standard 3% click-through rate means out of those 10,000 emails, only 300 people even bother to click the link. Just stop and think about that for a second. 9,700 people, that's 97% of your entire audience, are gone. Just gone. And for the handful of people who did click, it gets worse.
So out of those 300 people who were actually interested, what's next? Oh yeah, the dreaded registration form. You know the one. It seems like such a small thing to ask for, right? But with a pretty typical 40% conversion rate on that form, we lose another 180 people. Boof, gone. Our audience just got cut by more than half. Again, we are now down to just 120 people.
And then, finally, the big day arrives. And we've all been there, right? You sign up for something, and then life happens. A meeting runs long, the dog gets sick, whatever. A 50% attendance rate is actually pretty normal. So that cuts our number in half one last time. Of the 120 people who went through all the trouble to register, only 60 actually show up. So let's just recap that journey. We started with 10,000 emails, and we ended up with 60 people in the room. Insane.
And this visualizes the brutal math perfectly. Just look at that. That tiny, tiny little sliver, just 0.6%. That's everyone who actually showed up. The rest of that circle, that massive 99.4%, that's all the time, money, and effort that resulted in, well, absolutely nothing. This is that staggering waste we were talking about.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It gets to the core philosophical problem. The traditional model does all this work to get someone interested enough to click, and what's its immediate reward for them? It throws up a wall. It puts a form in their way. It's basically punishing them for showing interest. It's a completely hostile experience for the very people you want to talk to the most.
So, okay, the old way is clearly broken. It's leaky, it's wasteful, so what's the alternative? Well, that brings us right to the heart of this thing. Let's look at a totally different approach, one that flips this entire model right on its head.
Okay, so here it is, the big idea. The funnel flip, or as it's sometimes called, the invite-first model, does one simple, radical thing. It gets rid of the registration form. Completely. Instead of asking for someone's information, it gives them something valuable right away, a direct calendar invite. It sounds like a small change, but trust me, the implications are huge.
And this comparison just lays it all out crystal clear. Look at the left, the old way. You click, then you hit the registration wall. That's the friction. But on the right, with the new model, that friction is just gone. The very first thing that happens after someone shows interest isn't give me your data, it's let me secure this spot on your calendar for you. It's a total shift from capturing a lead to securing a commitment.
So, what's the big deal? What does this one little change actually accomplish? Well, a few huge things. First, and most obviously, it gets rid of that massive drop-off point we saw earlier. Second, you get a real commitment. I mean, think about it. A spot on someone's calendar is probably their most valuable digital real estate, right? It also creates what you could call a living connection. The event is right there on their calendar with reminders built in. But maybe the biggest thing is how it changes the whole dynamic. You're not treating them like a lead to be processed anymore. You're treating them like an invited guest.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds really good in theory. It's a nice idea, but does it actually work? Does the data back it up? Well, let's get into the numbers and see the real, quantifiable difference this makes.
All right, let's just cut straight to the chase. The bottom line.
Look at this chart. The invite-first model gives you a final yield of 1.2%. The traditional funnel, 0.6%. Yeah, you're seeing that right. It doubles the number of people who actually show up from the exact same starting point. The big question is, how? Let's break down the math.
Okay, this table tells the entire story step by step. So look, both funnels start exactly the same. 10,000 emails, 300 clicks. But here's the magic moment. The invite-first model completely skips that registration step. Remember those 180 people we lost? They're still in the game now. Instead, we have a new metric to track, RSVPs. And with a 50% RSVP rate on the calendar invite, that's 150 committed people. And because that event is on their calendar with all the built-in reminders, the attendance rate skyrockets. We end up with 120 attendees, exactly double the old way.
But honestly, the story gets even better. The real win here isn't just about getting more attendees. It's about getting better ones. Think about it. Someone who takes the time to add an event to their personal calendar has shown way more genuine intent than someone who just mindlessly filled out a form. This whole model basically acts as a filter for real interest. It means you're not just sending more leads to your sales team, you're sending them higher quality, more committed leads.
All right, so let's bring this all home. It's time to circle back to that very first question we asked and deliver the final verdict, and give you some ideas for what to do next.
So, what's the verdict? Based on the numbers we just saw, it's pretty clear. When it comes to digital event marketing, the funnel flip is absolutely not clickbait. It's a genuinely revolutionary idea. It takes technology we already have and uses it to fix a huge, expensive problem, all by shifting the focus back to where it should be, on the user.
So what do you do with this information now? Well, here's a simple action plan. First, you've got to audit your own funnel. You need to know your numbers cold. Second, run a small pilot program. Test this out. Pit the old way against the new way. Third, make sure you're tracking the right things. You'll need to look at new metrics, like your RSVP rate. And finally, just have a plan for how you're going to collect a person's data later on, since you're skipping that form at the beginning. And that really leaves us with just one final question to think about. After seeing how incredibly wasteful the old model is and the massive potential of this new approach, the question really isn't, is the funnel flip a gimmick anymore? The real question is, can you afford not to at least try it? So is it time for you to flip your funnel?